News in the spirit of faith. Election day was over a month ago. Now, on this program, here's something we did. We promised to tell you the truth. We promised to never insult your intelligence. Today is a truth day. Get ready. We've got some information that we're going to give to you under the anointing. It's a very powerful tool for you. I'm Greg Stevens. With me today is my good friend Tim Fox.
Good morning.
Tim. Also joining us today is Tim Barton from Wall Builders. Hi, Tim. How are you?
Hey guys, good to be with you today.
It's great to see you. You're back in the fun room where all the neat stuff is. We're grateful with this. Listen, we got a lot of stories we want your input on, and I want to talk to you also a little bit about some of the picks that Biden is making, and it gives you some insight into who he really is. So we'll be right back with you in just a second. Go over some of those things with you. Tim?
I might mention you and I are in the Christmas spirit, red, green. You know, we got the Christmas thing going on. Yeah.
And then there's that.
And then there's
Go ahead.
Well,
breaking news.
Speaking of Christmas spirit or lack of it there in L.A., a restaurant owner went viral over the weekend as she used her own restaurant to illustrate the hypocrisy happening in California over the COVID shutdowns. Watch this video as she points out the very activity that's been banned for restaurant owners just 50 feet away from her patio area.
So this is my place, the Pineapple Hill Grill and Saloon. If you go to my page, you can see all the work I did for outdoor dining, for tables being 7 feet apart. And I come in today because I'm organizing a protest, and I came in to get stuff for that. And I walk into my parking lot, and obviously Mayor Garcetti has approved this. Has approved this being set up for a movie company. I'm losing everything. Everything I own is being taken away from me. And they set up a movie company right next to my outdoor patio, which is right over here. And people wonder why I'm protesting and why I have had enough. They have not given us money and they have shut us down. We cannot survive. My staff cannot survive. Look at this. Tell me that this is dangerous, but right next to me as a slap in my face, that's safe. This is safe. 50 feet away. This is dangerous. Mayor Garcetti and Gavin Newsom is responsible for every single person that doesn't have unemployment, that does not have a job, and all the businesses that are going under. And we need your help. We need somebody to do something about this.
Well, that's troubling and heartbreaking. And of course, as we've said many times, for liberals, the rules just do not apply for them. Does 50 feet really differentiate between safe and unsafe? Since this video went viral, the owner has taken to social media multiple times to state her case and stand up for her fellow restaurateurs there in California. And the question I think she and a lot of other people have, or Governor Newsom, are you watching?
Oh, he's watching. He doesn't care.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
Tim, he could be watching. He would care less.
Yeah.
What happens to me is different than what happens to thee.
Yeah.
And this, you see this played out in New York. You see this played out everywhere. The Grinch is alive and well, and he's a Democrat. And he's in New York, and he's in California, and he's in a lot of places. I'm telling you, today is going to be a little bit disturbing on some of the things we're going to show you. But these are real people, and these are people that are hurting, and they're hurting because their government is doing it to them. Mm-hmm. Tim Barton, I want to bring you in on this real quickly before we go on to the next story. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, guys, it's one of the troubling things, seeing the level of hypocrisy, as you've already identified. It's one of the things that for us, looking back in American history, we can go back to the Declaration of Independence, where one of the things the founding fathers had a great grievance with against King George was there was levels of rules, that there was no toleration. In the colonies where there was a little more tolerance and flexibility over in England and with some of the royal appointed officials. And this is the same level of hypocrisy we're seeing today. I mean, you mentioned New York. It's crazy in New York that they are mandating if you're going to eat in a restaurant, it has to be outdoor dining. But now they're allowing them to build covers for the outdoor dining. So the outdoor dining is actually becoming indoor dining that's just outside the main building. It's utterly ridiculous. But this is the reality when you lean into socialism, when you lean into Marxism and communism, which is what a lot of these governors, a lot of these mayors are doing. This is the idea, is they think they can run your life better than you can. They think they will make better decisions for you than you will make for yourself. And then in the midst of it, they are crushing people's families, their lives, their businesses, and they're making them ultimately dependent on the will of the government for any pleasure or any entrepreneurship endeavors that they might have in the future. It's very disgusting. It's very heartbreaking, and certainly a reason we need to be praying for people all over the nation.
I remember the mayor of Austin sent out a message just recently on video, and he was telling people to stay home and stay inside. And he made that video in Cabo San Lucas. He was not even in the country when he made that video. So you got to ask the question, why do all of these different leaders, these Marxist governors and mayors that we have and socialists, how did they get this way? How did we become so totalitarian? Well, I'm going to give you maybe a reason why. Disturbing story aired last night about the United States relationship with China. Do you guys remember for the past 4 years, it's been Russia, 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 collusion. They impeached the president over it. And then it came to be not true. There was collusion that happened, and it happened with the Democratic Party campaign with Russia, but there was also huge collusion going on with China. This story broke last night on Fox News with Tucker Carlson. It involves what a professor from Beijing said while speaking on a television show in late November, about 10 days ago, guys. He was talking about the Wall Street Journal and international trade. He's an expert in international trade. The video was reported deleted from the Chinese social media shortly after it was uploaded. No surprise there. Here is Dai Dongxing saying, why did the U.S. and China have a good relationship between 1992 and 2016? But we are in a trade war now with the Trump administration. And why can't we fix it? When we show you this video right now, I want you to look at the subtitles of what he's saying. He says they used to be able to fix any issue with the United States in about 2 months' time. Read the subtitles and watch this.
特朗普政府跟我们打贸易战，那么我们为什么搞不定特朗普政府？啊，为什么以前1992年到2016年之间，中美之间各种问题都能搞得定？ 是不是？大家发现没有？所有的危机，不管是银河号事件，还是炸大使馆，还是撞了飞机，所有事情全部是床头吵架床尾和，2个月之内搞定。什么原因？啊，这儿我抛出一个可能又要是暴论了，就是因为咱们上边有人，啊，就是我们在美国的权势核心圈啊，我们有。
Now, watch the subtitles in that. He says it's because we have people at the top. He's talking about the United States of America. He goes on to say that the people at the top are the core inner circle of power and influence. At one point, he even talks about an American woman who works as an agent for the Chinese. She's an American, but now she's a Chinese citizen. He says this American agent worked on a successful propaganda campaign in Washington, D.C. in 2015. Who was president in 2015? He went on to say that the Obama administration was easy to manipulate, and they used Wall Street to make that happen. But then everything changed, he said, when Donald Trump took over. Watch the subtitles again on this clip. Go ahead.
其实呢，就过去这个30年啊，过去40年，我们在美国的它的这个利用它权势核心圈，是不是？我前面讲过，华尔街在1970年代开始对美国它的内政外交有非常强的影响力，啊，所以我们有路径依赖，是吧？ 但问题是，08年之后，华尔街的地位下降了。更重要的是，16年之后，华尔街搞不定特朗普，为什么？很尴尬。特朗普以前对华尔街有过一次软性违约，所以双方有矛盾啊。 当然这个细节我就不多说了，时间可能已经来不及了，是吧？那么这个中美贸易战过程中，他们也试图帮忙啊。据我所知，美方的朋友跟我讲，这个试图帮忙，但是啊力有不逮啊。但现在呢，现在我们看到拜登上台了。
Do you notice they couldn't control Trump? He goes on to say that now we are seeing Biden was elected. Those are his words, what he said. Essentially, it's time to get back to business with America's ruling elite, Chang says. He then comments, now listen to this one, because you didn't hear about it. The mainstream media did not cover it. He comments on Hunter Biden. Watch the subtitles.
拜登的儿子被特朗普说你在全球有什么基金公司，发现没有？谁帮他建的基金公司啊？明白吗？这里边都有买卖啊。
Who helped him build that foundation? He seems to be insinuating that China did. Essentially, what he's saying is China has a relationship with Hunter Biden. All of that came out prior to the election. Most people did not hear it, Tim.
Tim, I'll give you a moment to comment on what you just heard.
Yeah, guys, this is no surprise for those of us who've been kind of inside the belly of the beast and seeing this going on. It's one of the things when you look at the Hunter Biden stories, there were so many scandals coming out about all the places that Hunter Biden was going, collecting literal bags of cash, just taking money, getting all kinds of incentives and stocks and things from these foreign nations while his father was the vice president of the United States of America. And so things, and by the way, some of it has been under the Trump administration, but the reality is that there seemed to be a lot of corruption. There seemed to be a lot of money power plays going on. And China was one of the biggest nations that was very engaged in this. You can go back to the Clinton years, and we know that there was a lot happening in the Clinton years. In fact, the Clinton Foundation, when Hillary Clinton was running for president, that there's a lot of money coming from China, and it's gone to a lot of corrupt politicians. Now, what's significant about this is that these stories have not been disputed. Some people want to argue and say, no, all those claims have now been disproven. No, these are not disproven claims. These are things that are actually realistic and have been verified to be accurate. In the midst of that, at the end of election, there was a pollster who went and he surveyed roughly 1,000 Democrats that had just voted in the election. And he asked them about 8 major stories, including some of this information with Hunter Biden and China, and said, did you hear about this? And the vast majority said, no, we haven't heard any of these stories. The pollster said, if you had known these stories, would it have changed your position? And 17% of Democrats that he surveyed said if they had known about these stories, they would not have voted for Joe Biden. The problem is, this is where you see the media blackout, the media censoring, the media covering for the Biden family and covering for this corruption. And there's no doubt what we are seeing is absolutely corruption. And it's unfortunate that more of it is now becoming visible, that it looks like the election has already largely been decided apart from the court cases now being argued, which I still have a lot of hope that President Trump has a very good chance based on some of these court cases, based on things actually that have come out in the last couple of days. It looks like there is hope in several states that things could change. But the reality is that the media did a very big cover up for the Biden family because there is a lot of corruption, money corruption, and ties to China in their past.
Yeah, well, we have another video that we want to show you. And as Tim said, things are starting to come out now. This next video is more than a little disturbing. The man speaking is Dr. Li Yi, who has a PhD in sociology from the University of Illinois. So he was educated here in the States, but you can clearly see in this video where his allegiance lies. On the 16th of October 2020, he was invited to give a presentation at a forum in Shenzhen. This clip is a little longer, but to grasp the fullness of what he's saying, we wanted to give you some context.
结果没想到中国要在2027年超过美国了。2027年，原来说是可能还要缓个1-2年，结果去年今年这个上帝搞了个小阴谋，是吧？上帝给这个搞出来一个新冠，叫世界各国一弄，一搞这个新冠，这么一折腾新冠，结果对世界各国出了个考题，等于是，结果这个考题是个偏心的考题。这个新冠啊，这个东西啊，它是最不利于欧美的，最有利于朝鲜和中国的。所以全球抗疫，朝鲜第一，中国第二。朝鲜是个0嘛，是吧？朝鲜是0感染， 所以这个体制啊，它可以做到。我们这个体制也好，但是比朝鲜还差一点，还不如朝鲜。所以咱还死了4000人，是吧？但是你死4000人和美国死22万人比，你等于一个人都没死嘛，对吧？你看咱们等于差不多也是接近零感染，接近零死亡，14亿人死了4000人，那根本就等于没人得病，没人死嘛。中国经济，全球经济，中国现在一枝独秀，中国超过美国时间提前了。2027年没有问题，美国活不成了。体系我们奋斗了10几年，在2011、12年，我们已经在台海取得了对美日，在台海不是在世界，我们在渤海、黄海、台海，我们对美军形成了绝对优势，而且我们的扩军的速度是人类历史上所从未有过的。我们已经连续好几年，每年下水一个法国海军。1年一个法国海军吨位，我们还要继续每年一个法国海军，至少再下10年。只要14亿中国人民每天吃饭睡觉拉屎尿尿，只要我们每天上班，我们就把美国逼死了。这个从怎么讲，中国的发展都是不可抗拒、不可停止，除非只要一个事情不出，只要中国不出一个戈尔巴乔夫，不把中国自己内部搞乱。不搞得自己分崩离析，中国的发展就不可抗拒。
So let me recap some of what he just said. We are ahead of schedule in taking over the United States. We will drive the U.S. to its death. This is our true relationship with China, y'all. This is who the Biden family has been in partnership with and received money from, as we've already mentioned.
Always believe a dictator and a tyrant.
That's right.
We didn't listen to Hitler. He told us what he was going to do. We need to always listen to them. Now, both of those clips right there. Let's tie this, and I got to thinking, why aren't these politicians? I know Tim Barton, you do the same thing. Why aren't these politicians doing anything? Lawyer Lynn Wood drew some tainted attention to Georgia's Governor Brian Kemp in a tweet he shared on Monday. It began to circulate around social media that Georgia, the state of Georgia, has a Chinese website that entices China-owned businesses to take up residence in the Peach State. Governor Kemp is seen on the website touting the relationship with Chinese business. You can see it right there. That's a Chinese communist flag right behind him. And how much they would like to have them in Georgia. Wood says it's no coincidence that Georgia has China ties with how the election results have panned out there. Does it seem far-fetched or possible? We're looking at the connections. I'm just connecting puzzle pieces here. And now I'm wondering why maybe that governor has been dragging his feet on this. Tim Barton, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's really interesting. You have to question, is it a level of naivety? Is it a level of just foolishness? Or is there a deeper level of corruption? Certainly with the history record of Governor Kemp, you would think, maybe he just doesn't really get it, because there's a lot of people who look at the information that we are looking at and they don't see the same thing. They would call it a conspiracy theory. And actually, they would even believe China when they say we have only had 4,000 deaths and there's no new deaths and no new infections. As much as you're saying, and Greg, I think accurately, that we should believe a dictator when they say they're going to do something to somebody, we should believe what they're saying. At the same time, I also recognize that in communist nations, they don't always give very honest opinions of the own issues or faults in their own nation. And so the notion that they've had no new COVID cases or no new deaths, I'm going to take that with a grain of salt. I'm not sure that's totally accurate. However, with all this being said, this is where some people argue, well, it's conspiracy theory. I think you're right. I don't think that China is looking at this as innocently maybe as some Americans are. Some Americans in a capitalist system are saying, no, it's great. Let's bring in more business because that benefits America to have business in America. Well, it does benefit America on some level as long as you have strong leaders that can keep communist dictators at bay. Well, and Joe Biden is certainly not the leader to keep them at bay. It's arguable how much Joe Biden is in their pocket and how much control they might have over him. Because with Hunter Biden having been over there, even on Hunter Biden's laptop, there's the accusations of child porn on Hunter Biden's laptop. Well, it's real possible that some of these dictators in foreign nations have an awful lot of dirt on Hunter Biden that they could release at any point, or Joe Biden they could release at any point. So you do have to ask the question, how much control do some of these nations have over some of these leaders when these leaders have been such good friends and companions? And these leaders don't seem to want to put America first. And one of the things that struck me from the video was when you look at the two videos and put them together to give some context, they've had a hard time advancing their agenda with the leadership of Donald Trump because he has put America first. And that's just not something that we anticipate or see from Joe Biden or perhaps from a Joe Biden administration in the future.
Okay, so we know this, that China steals intellectual property of the United States. We know that. We know that absolutely. So that's the small business owner. That's the businesses here in America. Now, those two clips, I'm gonna say they're at war with America. They said so in those clips. When you think about the woman that we showed you when we started, whose business, who the mayor and the governor of her state, mayor of her city, governor of her state, will not allow her to open, doing the exact same thing that they allowed somebody else to open, a big Hollywood movie unit to do. When you look at what it's doing to the regular people in America, that, Tim, is when I get upset. That's when I draw the line.
Yeah, and rightfully so. When we are willing to give money to people that are our enemies on a lot of practical levels, they want to see the destruction of America. They want to see the American economy crash, and they're willing to spend the lives of their people to see America collapse, to see America fall, to see them be number one. And when you have government leaders who are acquiescent to the vision of a communist dictator who wants the destruction of America, not only are you complicit, you are actively participating in what they are doing. And this is where it is absolutely disgusting. You're right. It's absolutely disgusting to see what these governors would do when out in California, they're going to let Hollywood continue with their production, continue their facility, as if Hollywood is an essential business. Now, of all the things we're going to define as essential, I don't know how a small business owner that is providing food and drink, which is what this lady had, her business was a food and drink restaurant. Food and drink is not essential, but a Hollywood movie is. It's utterly ridiculous. It is ludicrous. But this is where, if you look at California, and one of the reasons that we encourage so often that Americans and Christians specifically have to get involved in the process, Los Angeles is where this lady's business was. The mayor of Los Angeles was elected with 2.9% of the population's vote. So less than 3% of Los Angeles actually elected the mayor that is shutting down that city. This is where, as Christians, if we would recognize, if we will get involved in the process, we can make a huge difference in helping promote godliness and righteousness and helping get good kind of leaders, where the Bible tells us that when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. When the wicked rule, the people groan. So, and there's a lot of groaning happening along the nation because Christians have not done a good job getting involved and helping elect righteous leaders.
And is that what we voted for? Did we vote for what we see with China and all this other? Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm always reminded of something Brother Copeland said that he learned from Brother Oral Roberts. What you compromise to keep, you will eventually lose. And I'll just say that to these leaders who keep compromising and compromising time after time after time. Yesterday, we want to follow up with you. Sidney Powell's election fraud case, we told you yesterday, was dismissed in Georgia. Today, we're going to follow up and tell you she is not giving up. According to numerous reports, late on Monday, Powell's legal team said it is appealing the dismissal to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit. Powell's suit was filed in November on the 25th. It's centered around Dominion voting machines and alleged manipulation of software, Greg.
So we're going to give you more information concerning those things as they come forward. There are more news stories about lawsuits. Here's one here. Texas Senator Ted Cruz says he's ready to get in on the legal action, especially in respect to the Pennsylvania and the United States Supreme Court. Cruz said on Monday that he is willing to make the oral arguments before the Supreme Court justices. It would be part of an appeal using constitutional challenges seeking to block Pennsylvania from certifying its election. The appeal is essentially asking that Pennsylvania officials nullify their actions until an order from the court comes down. He is formerly the Solicitor General for the state of Texas. And speaking of the state of Texas, let me just keep going with this, and then we're going to, Tim, I'll kick it to you. Texas is is now getting involved. According to Epoch Times today, the state of Texas filed a lawsuit with the United States Supreme Court. It alleges Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin unconstitutionally changed election laws, treating voters unequally and triggering voter irregularities. The Lone Star State is asking the justices to prohibit counting of the Electoral College votes from those 4 states. And so we're keeping our eyes on all of that, Tim.
Absolutely, and good for our state here. Finally, we told you yesterday about the Jericho March. Irina Grosu is she's the co-founder of Jericho March, and she's joining us now real quickly to share about the event this weekend. The mission is calling upon people of faith to pray, fast, and peacefully protest in the service of God. Irina, tell us a little bit about what's happening this Saturday in D.C.
We are going to have Jericho marches taking place around the U.S. Capitol, Supreme Court, and Department of Justice. People will be walking around 7 times praying, and then we'll all converge onto the National Mall for Let the Church Roar prayer rally that will be starting in the late morning, around probably 11:30 until about 4 p.m. And we would like to announce on your show that General Flynn has confirmed that he will be speaking at our event on the National Mall. He will also be speaking at the Supreme Court at 10 a.m. So he'll be speaking twice that day. This will be the first time since everything's happened that he'll make public statements. Oh, and I just wanted to say that the Jericho marches came upon because of a vision that I, as a Catholic and a Spirit-filled Pentecostal, independent of each other, got in prayer, and we started to gather prayer rallies all around the country at state capitals since November 5th. There have been people out there praying and marching every single day at noon for election integrity, transparency, and reform. And now we're going to converge on both the National Mall in D.C. for the Let the Church Roar rally, as well as in swing states at noon on Saturday. So if you can't make it to D.C., make sure you make it to one of the swing states for one of their Roar events there. All
right, Irina, thank you so much for your time. We'll be hearing more from you later on in the week, I'm sure. JerichoMarch.org is the website, Greg. Okay, make sure you're part of that. If you can't be there, at least pray for it and support it in that way. All right, Tim, we've got about a minute and a half here. What are you watching, looking for? I really, now more than ever, are standing. There's still a way for this thing to flip. And what are you watching for?
Yeah, there absolutely is. What you pointed out with Ted Cruz maybe getting involved with the U.S. Supreme Court, that is the Pennsylvania suit, where part of their election process was not according to the Pennsylvania state constitution. And so there is a very good reason to consider that part of the election process, which was the mail-in voting after election date by so many days, that goes to the U.S. Supreme Court. Those could be thrown out, which could swing the state of Pennsylvania back to President Trump's direction. The same thing looking at Georgia, some of the lawsuits going on. The Trump team even was able to get 22 of the Dominion voting systems that they are doing a deep dive analysis on that. And we expect results back from that any day now this week to see if they can find that the Dominion voting system was in fact a problem, if that was part of fraud that took place. So there's still a lot unresolved and a lot of hope still for the Trump administration. Okay, so I want to jump back in here with you for just a second, Tim, because with all the memorabilia you have behind you and historical things there, the things that we showed you today, some of those were a little tough to take. Some of that's a little shocking to us. But you need to know it was the Christians, it was the righteous people, the people of faith. Pastor, it was you during the time of the revolution, combined with men who swore their lives, their fortunes, their sacred honor, who had a backbone in an elected office. It was those two coming together that turned this thing around. 10 seconds, Tim. Is that right? Every single time America had major issues and we were dealing with evil or atrocities in our nation, every time the way those got solved or corrected was Christians, pastors, and leaders standing up. And it's no different now. We need Christians to stand up and be the solution for America. Okay, and that's what we're asking you to do. It's your time to be the one, as Gene Bailey says. Speaking of Gene Bailey, tonight, Flashpoint. Pastor George Pearsons will be here. Mario Murillo and Dutch Sheets. You don't want to miss it. 8 Eastern, 7 Central Time. We'll be back here at 5 Eastern Time. God bless you, everybody. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.